Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
Check. What up, world? It's the man with the plan, Burt McGurk, aka PR, the King of Hearts, and you are now tuned into Clocking Out, the podcast you listen to when you need to get motivated and inspired to doing bigger and better things. What is going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Clocking Out. I'm your host, PR, the King of Hearts, and today we are here with a crazy man that I hear likes to flip houses and toss cars by the name of Colton. Colton, how you doing, sir?
Not bad, man. How about you?
So far, so good, man. I heard your story and I heard a little bit about you, and I was very interested, and I was like, you know what? I got to get this man on here and learn more about him.
Yeah, it's a little wild.
So before we get into the questions and everything and dive deeper into this whole powerlifting lifestyle and everything, give the audience and our listeners and viewers and supporters a good idea of who you are by introducing yourself. Tell us your name, where you're from, and give us a little background on your history and experience on this profession of yours.
Oh, well, my name's Colton Collins. I'm from Gainesville, Georgia, so it's not much out here. We're like an hour north of Atlanta, which the traffic is shit. So, not much. I mean, I was in the Marines for about 4 years. I deployed to Afghan. I deployed to Japan. After that, I became a locksmith. So now that's what I do. I do that. I'm also a contractor, install like security cameras and systems and stuff like that. But you're probably here for like the powerlifting stuff and the wild stories you heard from Percival.
Yeah, Percival. For those who don't know, I heard about Colton from one of our previous guest speakers, Percival, who is a cozy video game live streamer who was on here. And before he got off, he told me a little bit about Colton. And basically the way he describes is like, yo, I got to put you on to my friend. He said that you guys have a podcast that you do together. And he brought up how he's like, what really caught me was just, he said, you got to meet my friend. He likes to lift houses and flip cars for fun. And I'm like, I definitely got to get this guy on and learn more about him.
So yeah, I mean the car part, obviously, I did strongman for a little bit. So obviously one of the events in strongman is car deadlifts, which is a lot easier than it sounds. It's like a reverse leg press, basically. It's all about leverage, but it looks badass. So, but I decided like strongman was fun and everything, but like powerlifting was just the one I wanted to stick with.
And how did you originally, like, what initially sparked your interest in powerlifting? Like, was there something specific or a specific moment or an experience that you had that ignited that in you and that interest or that passion?
Not really. So we were in Japan for about 6 months while we were there, basically because I was infantry. So you're there for 6 months, then you go back home, basically just to have a force there at all times. And one of my roommates, he was a bigger guy. He was into lifting, and he's the one that started getting me into powerlifting. So obviously we're in Japan. When we're back on the main, like in the area where we're at, there wasn't much to do. So we were like working out like twice a day, every day. Still couldn't run worth shit, but I could lift. And he's the one that really got me into it. And for the longest time, I was like, you know what? Like, I want to hit these numbers. I'm going to do it. And he was pretty much like, nah, bitch, like, you're going to go do it. And he keeps, and I kept with it. Now I give people the same advice. Like, don't keep saying you're going to do it when you hit these numbers. Just go do it. Because if not, those numbers are always going to get higher. You're never going to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
It didn't take much. It was literally just us working out and him being like, you should do it. And I was like, you know what? Okay, I'll do it.
So is that what motivates you to keep going and keep trying to push your limits? Is it like making sure that you try to hit a higher number or like striving for a new personal record? Like, what is it that makes you want to keep going? Because it's like, I've gone to the gym, but when I say gym, I'm talking about like Planet Fitness. Like what I see you post on your profile as a gym literally looks like a construction yard or something. Like right. All the stuff that you got around to lift, all the chains, all the chalk, all the like, and like the guys that you're around look like all they do is like mix cement or like break bricks with their hands or something. Like they're all really brolic. So it's like when I say go to the gym, I'm picturing like Planet Fitness or something like that. But what is it that makes you want to keep going? Because like I understand going and lifting some weight and getting in shape. You on the other hand look like you're I don't know, bro. I don't know who you're mad at or what the hell is going on, but you got like, I see like the force that you use to push this weight, and it's just crazy, and it's really astonishing. Like it reminds me of like gladiator type stuff. So like it gets like really, it's like looking at like UFC fighting type stuff. It's real raw. Like there's no way you can fake it type stuff. You get what I'm saying? Like you see the weight that you have, you see the numbers on it, you can see the struggle, you can see like all the muscles and everything. So like, what is it that makes you want to keep going back and putting your body through that over and over again?
I mean, to be honest, I don't know. I just like seriously, I don't know. I guess I've just been doing it for so fucking long that at this point, like if I don't go, so I go to the gym 3 days a week and that's it. But I'm there for hours. Like today was just different. I was there for an hour because I was like, I thought we were going light, and then he's like, oh, we're going heavy. So I was like, well, I'm gonna have to hit these weights in an hour and then rush back here for this. So I like had to basically warm up basically a plate at a time, hit the weight, and then get the fuck out. But usually I'm there for like anywhere between 2 to 3 hours. And then I've just been, I guess, doing it for so long that at this point, if I don't go, I'm in a horrible mood.
Gotcha. So it's like a stress reliever.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the competing part is pretty much what everybody does it for. Meet day's the best. You know, you're miserable for about a week because if you weight cut, water cut, everything like that, like I do because I'm a fat bitch, then you do all that. You weigh in Friday, then you eat like a motherfucker and try to get as heavy as you can. So like, because your boy's not sticking to a diet again, we signed up for 220, but we're doing 242 now because we're sitting like 249, 250. So I'll weigh in at about 242 probably, and then the day of the meet I'll probably be sitting at about 255, just because all I'll be doing Friday is eating.
But still, but like it's just like, and that's the other thing too. Like I don't know. I'm assuming because of the fact that I started following your profiles, I've been seeing more and more content and more things show up on my feed now of like heavy lifting and everything like that. So it's like I see people doing the whole thing where they're prepping and they're putting on weight and everything. And it's like, it's still like, what is that like when it comes to like, what do you call it? Prepping or just putting on weight or like what, bulking up or like?
I guess it depends on what you're doing. I mean, mine wasn't on purpose. It was literally just me not sticking to a diet. And then I was supposed to diet down. Like, obviously, I've known about this meat for months. I was supposed to diet down to about 230. Then I would water cut to about 220, weigh in, and then compete at that. But obviously, since I didn't stick to it, we're just going the heavier weight because at this point, I'm not going to hit the numbers I want if I make that massive water cut. So, I mean, I guess it depends on what you do. Obviously, like bodybuilding is going to be different. I mean, when it comes to powerlifting, strongman, most people are dieting down when they're getting closer to their meet so that they can hit that weight class that they want. Because the lighter your weight class is, the better your numbers in the long run are going to be across the board against everybody.
And so like, when you're like, so you do, what is it exactly that you're looking to target or like what is it you're focusing on when you're doing that? And like, is there a way that you keep track of it, or is it something that you just do in your head because you've been doing it so much? Is there a sheet that you go for? Is there certain things you stay away from, certain things that you make sure you get more of than you normally do? Like, how does that work when it comes to that? Because I know a lot of people, they look at it like dieting or just like, oh, you just got to put on weight so you can eat whatever as long as it's a lot of it, or like, how necessarily does that work? What do you do in order to track it or in order to stop yourself, besides for just feeling like you're doing too much? What is it that you necessarily track in order to make sure that you're not overdoing it?
So yeah, so I stick to an actual diet plan. Like I have somebody that does it for me, and then I also have a coach that does all my lifts for me too. And basically, he's like, "This is what you're doing today." So this way, all I got to do is go and just do what he says, and that's it. So I mean, obviously, the closer like you want to start tracking your protein, everything like that, your carbs closer to the meat are going to get a little lower. So for instance, like I said, water cutting. So the week of the meet, going into it, I think because I'll do something called water loading, which is basically you take distilled water. I'm going to do, because I'll weigh in Friday. So I'll probably start like Saturday. I'll do like 1 gallon of distilled water. Sunday, another one. Monday, though, I'll drink like 2 gallons. Wednesday, I'll go, I think like 1. And then I'll also pull all carbs on Wednesday. And then Thursday, I'm going to probably stop eating around noon and stop drinking water and then hit the sauna until we weigh in.
And has there ever been a time where you've like regretted putting on or eating something like and getting that extra weight and you're like, you know what, I did too much? Or maybe like how was it that you were able to like maintain it and find like your way? Or is it different every time? Were you going on and off trying to put on weight or trying to cut or whatever it is, like whether you're going for a competition or you're just going for a personal record? Like is it the same thing, or is it depending on what the situation is or what you're going for that you're going to eat it's a specific diet? And if so, like what was the worst or best one that you've like ever tried when it comes to like sticking to it diet wise?
So, I mean, it's pretty much the same every time. Obviously, it's going to depend on what your weight is going into the actual cut. The worst I've ever done was I decided I was going to cut 30 pounds in a month, or a little over that, because I was sitting at like 230 at the time and I wanted to compete at 198 still. So I decided I was going to do all that. So we pulled all carbs, everything. And I think with the sauna and everything, I went to weigh in, I weighed in at 200. And again, I needed to be 198. So I had to drop 2 more pounds. But if I was going to do that, which I could have, but I would have had to go back to the sauna, and then weigh-ins were ending by the time I got there. So I would have to come back for the evening weigh-ins, which are usually around like 4 or 5, which cuts into my time to refeed. So we decided just to go up a weight class and just cut our losses on that one. But I wasn't able to gain everything back because again, I pulled carbs too early, so I couldn't pull those out during the cut, and then I just couldn't gain all the weight back. And then I just had a horrible meet after that. So one, I went up a weight class and I didn't hit any of the numbers I wanted because like the strength just wasn't there.
And
Then
is there a certain like when you're trying to do that for like a competition or anything like that, is there what's the like the penalty for that?
there's not one. The penalties literally just, oh well, you're going up against heavier guys, because
Gotcha.
usually 242 they're doing the same thing. They're cutting anywhere between 260 and 250 down to 242. So now, say for that meet I was doing 220, so I'm going up against guys that are around 230, and that's about what I started at. But they're cutting that a lot later. Like they're water cutting that instead of me cutting all 30. They're cutting like 10 to 15. So
Gotcha.
basically, just bigger guys you're going up against.
Gotcha. And it does it like is it like boxing in the sense where you want to try and focus on a specific weight class to go against a specific person, or it doesn't really matter at that point?
Not really. I mean, you could still. It doesn't really matter because it's not just you and one other person. There's a whole like list of people in that weight class. So, for instance, like the one I'm doing here, and like I think we're 3 weeks out now. It's here in Gainesville. It's a huge one. It's called like Iron Built. It's the first one they've ever done. So they're trying to do it across the country. So, but like my weight class was stacked at 220 when we originally signed up. A bunch of the old guys were coming back that I hadn't competed against in a long time. So it was going to be a big one. I was excited for that. But then apparently a bunch of us are bumping up weight classes just because we're too heavy. So a lot of people are leaving that 220, going like 242. I know another guy was going to do 242. He's doing 260 now. So it doesn't really matter. You're going up against whoever's in that weight. You can try to avoid it if you want. It doesn't really matter, honestly.
And besides for bulking up and cutting weight and meeting weight and all that stuff when you're preparing for that, what are some other like what have been some most significant challenges that you faced in like this career that you chose to do, and how did you overcome them?
I don't know. None of it's really been that awful. Obviously, like you're in pain like 24/7. The closer you get to the meet, everything hurts. Like right now, my arms are like throbbing in pain from squats because obviously all that pressure on your arms, it just fucking kills it. And then I'll have to turn around Wednesday and bench. Like it's just something you just pop ibuprofen, you deal with it. But other than that, probably the sauna at this point. I feel like I have like sauna anxiety. So I like get in there and I hate my life. Like when we started, I used to be able to sit in there for an hour. Now it's maybe 30 minutes. And then I'm like, yeah, I can't breathe. We got to get out of here.
Is there any like it's like for things of like sauna or of course like lifting weights, I'm pretty sure there's certain ways if you're not doing it properly it can cause some damage and affect you. But is there anything else that's similar to the situation with the sauna where you get that experience where you just can't stand it no more? In the beginning it wasn't that bad, but now it's to the point where you've done it so repetitively you're just over it. Is there anything else that's similar to that when it comes to all this besides for the sauna or besides for eating or something like that?
Not really. I mean, the eating part is just me being lazy. A lot of it's just I'm not prepared. Like I didn't cook my meals, I didn't make stuff. That's all it is with the meal prep, but you just got to stick with it. It's not really that hard because the food's still good and you can kind of change it how you want. The only shitty parts, obviously, like the higher your PR is in the meet, which is what you train for, is a big PR, anyways. Now all your weights during training are heavier. But there's never really been a time that I was like, you know what, like I'm over it. Because the minute I think like this isn't fun anymore, I'm gonna quit. Like I'm gonna be done because if there's no fun in it, what's the point?
I get you. And like, so how do you balance the physical demand of powerlifting with your overall health and well-being? Because like you said it, like your body's going to be aching in pain, and then you got to focus on the stuff that you're eating and stuff. And I'm pretty sure that once you build up like a tolerance to all that, and then you either want to stop it, I'm pretty sure it's not as easy as just stopping. And there's going to be certain things that you got to like do it in a certain process or whatever. Or maybe I'm mistaken and you can literally just stop everything all in one day. Like, but what are like some other things that you've like been able to do in order to balance that so that it's not too all over the place?
Um, Honestly, pretty much nothing. You just kind of deal with it. Obviously, like you stretch. For instance, like the week of the meet, I'll get a deep tissue massage to help with all the pain. So on meet day, I'm 100%, and there's something called deloading. So you'll take a light week to basically let your body recover. If it gets to the point, like for instance, the last meet prep, um, I was going into a really big meet, and it was getting to the point I physically couldn't bench because my arms hurt so bad. So at that point, we took that whole week off just to let my body recover, and then we went back at it. So you'll take deload weeks to let your body recover and kind of heal on its own. You'll stretch and everything like that. Try to get a massage and just do whatever you can to kind of make the pain go away.
Is there anything that you've endured like pain wise or injury wise that was like something that really it took you out of commission for quite a while? It wasn't something like just a day or two. It was like a really big significant injury. Nothing surgery wise, but anything with your muscles or bones that might have happened that stopped you from lifting for a while or doing any day-to-day stuff?
So, I mean, both of them were kind of my early stages of powerlifting. One of them, I decided I was going to go try to deadlift, not like while my wife was still in the hospital after having our kid. Like we had somebody sit with them. So I was like, all right, well, I got a little bit. Let me go deadlift. And obviously she was fine with it too, or I wouldn't have done it. But obviously I didn't take into account, like I hadn't really been sleeping because you're sleeping on a couch there. I'm not really hydrated because I hadn't had a lot of water. So mid deadlift, like my back popped. It felt great when it happened, but like 5 minutes after, I couldn't move. Like it just hurt. I was out for like 3 weeks after that. And
Damn.
then another one was my IT band. Like I didn't tear it or anything, but it was just so tight that I was still having to train going into a meet because again, it was a big meet. I want to say it was when I was doing tested worlds. So we were getting ready to go to Vegas for worlds. And literally every week I was going, I got a buddy that's a physical therapist. I was going to see him and he was dry needling me every week leading up to it just to kind of relieve it and get it to the point I could keep working out and get ready for the meet.
And so when you're preparing for all this stuff, I'm pretty sure that, nutrition plays a big role in it with, like I said before, with everything that you're eating. You say that you have someone like, give you a diet and everything. Is there any like certain training regiment that comes with the food, or is it just regular diet? Like, is there certain things that you have to adapt to eating, like that you wouldn't normally eat on your day-to-day stuff, or is it just eating more quantities of it?
Yeah, it's definitely throwing for a loop because I don't eat a lot. Like I may not look like it, but I really don't. So when I first started doing this guy's meal plan, my last meal of the night, like I would be force feeding it. So it would take me like an hour just to eat this piece of chicken. Just because like I don't eat that much. It'd be to the point like I want to vomit doing it. Or for instance, like I said, the refeed after weigh-ins It's to the point where basically, the packs of Gatorade, the bottles is like what is like 6 of them
Yeah.
together. I'll buy like 3 of those, and I'll try to drink at least 2.5 of them before the next day I wake up. So I could do that. I'll do like a huge bag of Doritos, and you're just force feeding all day. And the best meats I've ever had were to the point like I drank so much of that and I ate so much I'm like throwing up by the end of the night. But like the next day I feel amazing. And I'm also like I said, I weighed 242. I weighed the 255 the next day. Like those are the best ones I ever had.
Wow, that's so crazy though. Like, and none of this sounds easy, man. None of this
Oh,
sounds
it's miserable.
So the fact that it's like you're doing this by choice just because, and it's just like you don't know why, you just want to go and put your body through this and then like go lift weights like crazy is just, oh man. But I want to ask you next is like for some practical advice for other people or anyone else who might be interested in this, whether as a fan or whether they would like to get involved as an athlete and go lift some weights and all that stuff. What advice would you give someone who is just starting out in powerlifting? Like, what would you say is the first step to focus on? Would it be like the history of it all? Is it the whole gym life? Is it nutrition? Like, is it being self-aware? Like, what is it that you first started on and focused on that you feel is important, or you wish that you knew or you started on and focused on first when you got involved in this that would help somebody else?
I'd probably say like self awareness is the big one. Also, and obviously, like if you're new, I would hire a coach. It doesn't matter like how experienced they are. My first coach, she was a great starter coach. Don't get me wrong, but my second coach was possibly one of the best coaches I ever had. And we just split ways just because it was, to me, it felt like it was just time to do it. Like, don't get me wrong, he's still an amazing coach. He's a Hall of Fame powerlifter. Steve Goggins, he was the first person to squat over 1,000 pounds. Like the dude's genius, and he's a wonderful coach. He's still coaching a lot of some of the big people in Georgia. There's another one's just a monster in Tennessee. Like he knows what he's doing, but that's just a big part is getting someone that knows what they're doing, have them teach you. Because my first meet, I bombed out. Like I didn't get any of my squats. I got there, I had a guy helping me at the gym I was at, helped me get ready for it, said he was into powerlifting. Then I get to the meet, and almost every single piece of equipment I've been lifting with, they were like, you can't use that on the platform. So like basically every part of my body's all fucked because obviously the military. And so I got like bad knees, bad wrist, bad back, like everything's bad. And so I'm wearing like knee braces. I got these elbow braces to help with the pain on that. I get there, I'm pulling it all out of the bag for gear check, and every bit of it is like that's not going to work. Like you can't use any of this. So I had to go out there, basically nothing on my knees, everything for the first, like never squatted like that. And then also I'm squatting high because never had anyone basically do a depth check. And so I completely bombed out. And what they don't tell you is you bomb out, you're done. You can keep lifting in the meet if you want, but none of it matters at that point.
Oh wow, that's crazy. But do they let you know before you keep
Oh
moving?
yeah, they'll let you know. So like they'll give you the option. Like you can, and I know 2 of them at least. So like I compete in USPA. And I know 2 people in the federation that are pretty good about it. They'll even give you the option sometimes if it's not a big meet, it's not that important, it's just local. They'll ask you if you want to do push pull, which is basically say you bomb out on squats. It just takes squats out of the equation. So now you just bench and deadlift.
Gotcha. Okay. Has any of that ever happened to you in any of the competitions, like where you've just, but like you said, the first one, but I mean, besides for that, because of course I understand that it's just your first time going. Has there ever been a time that halfway through it, like something's happened, it was like one that you were really preparing for and really hyped up for, and it just didn't go as planned?
I mean, it happens. You always have good meets, you have bad meets. It's just going to happen. Probably the worst that I can remember, me and my now coach at the time was my training partner because we've been training together since I think like 2017. We've been training together, but we both went to Vegas for Worlds. He bombed out on squats, and I almost bombed out on bench. So I finally got the 3rd try, and then I was good from there. But yeah, it was rough because that thought of like I have to get this or I'm done. Like this whole trip to Vegas was for nothing. It was pretty rough.
Yeah. And so but besides for things like that, how important, because you mentioned like when you went up you had a bunch of times that they told you the certain equipment that you were, used to using and everything you couldn't use while you were up there. And like, so I'm pretty sure, was it the same with anything as far as proper technique that you were using, or is there a such thing as right or wrong proper technique for powerlifting? And like, what are some of the common mistakes that not only people would you do in their first competitions, but just powerlifting in general that you learned the hard way that you think is important for people to keep in mind if they're trying to get started in this?
So yeah, I mean the equipment you use really comes into play a lot. I mean, a lot of it's just whatever you prefer. So even with wrist straps, just to help, because again, I have bad wrists, so I like long wrist straps because it really takes the pressure off. But like even as far as like say this company didn't pay their fee to the federation, now you can't use those wrist straps that you like to use. That's only happened to me once, and luckily this other company had long wrist straps at the meet too, so I got lucky there. But it does happen, so you got to keep up on all that. And then a big thing I see a lot is commands, because I'm also a ref for the state of Georgia as well for powerlifting, and I help run the meets here
Nice.
because I'm friends with the meet director here, with both of them actually. But a big thing is just commands. Like you can get the lift, but it's say so the commands are like start and then rack for squat. Say you rack it before they say, or you squat before they say start, it's done. They're gonna red light you. Same thing on bench. Like if you, it's like start, press, then rack. If you miss any of those, you jump them, you're done. Like it's red lighting whether you get that weight or not.
And how difficult is it to learn all like the rules and regulations when it comes to things like that? Is it something that, because like I know a lot of people say go watch a video, read a book and everything, but being that you've been doing it firsthand, what is it in your experience do you think is the best way to learn those techniques as well? Do you think it's something that you should read or watch a video, or do you think that you got your best experience in it when you went to your first few competitions and it was hands on and you learned from your mistakes of being able to, of being told what you can and can't do?
I would definitely say hands on. Like you can read it, but it's not the same as actually doing it. Plus, like I said, depending on how big the meet is, they can be more lenient. So, like for instance, like I said, I almost bombed out at Worlds. The rule they were trying to get me on is they were like, "Well, your butt moved." The rule is like if your butt comes off the bench and I can see daylight, they'll red light you. But obviously, because it's Worlds, they're going to be more strict. It was literally to the point like, "Oh, well, it moved." Period. So we're gonna red light you for that. But yeah, it's really just hands on. A lot of it's simple. None of the rules are that hard. They have a rules briefing before the meet too. The big thing they stick to is just the commands, and then don't bail on the bar. So like if you're gonna fail it, if you basically drop it and run off, they're gonna disqualify you and kick you out, because at that point you're putting all those spotters in danger. But other than that, everything's pretty simple. They don't really hound you on anything unless, like I said, it's a big meet. Which if you're doing one of those, you should be more experienced anyways, because they have qualifications you have to hit.
So for everyone who's joining us in the chat, shout out to Savvy, shout out to Tabfro, shout out to Hazel, give a shout out to MP, Bro Fit. Who else do we have in here? Yeah, I think that's everybody who showed up on Twitch and on X and on YouTube. We've been streaming right now for half an hour. Thank you all for tuning in, showing love, and stopping by and kicking it with us in the chat. Then we got Brett, who just tuned in. He's in you on the YouTube chat. Thank you so much for coming by, Brett, and for saying hello. We appreciate the support and the love. Also, for everyone who is interested, I dropped Colton's link to his Instagram, so you can go and check out his stuff. A few people already have. They're saying you a beast. You're crazy. All the videos of the things that you're lifting are insane. Everyone's talking about how, they're trying to get inspired and get pushed to go back into the gym. So for everyone who wants to learn more about Colton, please be sure to go and give him a follow. I put the link of his Instagram page in the chat. Also, for anyone who is listening or watching this after the fact in this pre-recording, you can also check the description of wherever you're listening to this episode or watching, and I'll have all the information for Colton in the description as well. Colton, before we go any further, what I wanted to ask, to keep it into the whole thing of practical advice for anyone who is interested in trying to get more involved in the world of powerlifting, can you share some practical tips for building strength and muscle mass? And also, could you share what is either your favorite or least favorite method of doing this?
I mean, everybody's gonna have their own way. You can't really tell one way to do it, and then everyone does it because that's the other problem. Is there's a lot of people out there that can lift a lot, and then they think, well, I've done it, so now I can be a coach. That honestly, I would just my biggest advice: just hire somebody. There's a lot of people out there that are starting out. You don't need anything special to get started. Like I said, my first coach wasn't the best in powerlifting, but she was a great starter coach. Like she got me my foot in the door, got me started, and just showed me the routine. A big part of it is just get your form down because there's so many things that can go wrong. I've seen people rip their biceps twice now. I know two people personally that have snapped both their knees while squatting. Like there's a lot of bad things that can happen while you do it, but as long as you're smart, don't overdo it. And just a big part is listen to your body. If your body starts telling you like, hey, you may need to stop doing this for a minute. If I'm hurting or anything like that, or you start feeling like a pull somewhere you shouldn't feel it, like put the shit down and just stop.
We have Savvy, not so savvy living is in the chat, and she wanted me to ask you, have you ever passed tape? She said that you will know.
Hey, God, no.
What does that mean? Please educate us.
So if I'm thinking it is in the military, they tape you, and it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. It's basically to tell you if you're overweight or not, which obviously I am. But they'll basically, I don't even think I think they get your weight, and then what they do is they take obviously the measuring tape around, I think it's like around your chest, and then around your neck. And if you had a huge neck, you're going to pass tape every time. If you're lucky, they'll some of them would put it on your traps too to kind of fill in for that too. But yeah, I've never passed tape.
So is it a good thing or a bad thing to pass tape?
Well, you're supposed to pass tape.
Oh, okay.
When I was enlisted, I wasn't this big. I think when I was an Afghan, I weighed 160. I left Afghan about 195.
Wow. And what's is there a punishment for not passing tape?
Not really. The big thing is like obviously if you don't pass tape and you're not performing too, then there is. So like if you're falling out of runs, falling out of hikes, you can't perform your job, then there's going to be punishments. They'll hit you with basically slaps on the wrist and paperwork to be like, you need to do this. And if worse comes to worse, you can be kicked out. But at that point, it's got to be like ridiculous.
Savvy says, I was 9 months pregnant and I was in regs for weight. It's a BS system.
It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, if you see it, it's literally stupid. We had a dude, he was overweight, but he took his shirt off and it was like nothing but ripped. And the dude was finally like, I'm not even gonna tape you, man. This is stupid.
Yeah, it sounds kind of crazy. I mean, like, but is that something is that something that's just done amongst like all the soldiers type thing, or is it an actual thing that you have to do that's like a requirement?
You have to do it, but most people don't. Like I said, they don't take it that seriously unless you're not performing. But like I said, I was in infantry, so I don't know how it is for like admin jobs and stuff like that. Maybe they do. But as far as mine, we didn't take it's at least my first unit, they didn't take much seriously at all. It was more even if you really fucked up, like we're gonna take you in the tree line and we're gonna fuck you up physically, and then it'll be hush hush and we'll hide it under the rug. My second unit was pretty big on paperwork, so that kind of sucked.
And so with all the experience that you have, especially like whether it's in the military and powerlifting and everything, how does your journey of all those things combined impact your personal and professional development, do you think?
I don't even know, honestly. I don't take a whole lot of things seriously. Obviously, from the military, I got pretty good at like I can take an ass chewing, so I'm pretty good at like separating work and life. Like I'm not gonna I'm not making things personal at work, and I'm not gonna bring like if I had a shit job day at work, I'm not bringing it back home, and I'm not taking it to the gym with me. Like to me, that's the biggest thing, being able to separate the two.
And is there anything that you've experienced in the powerlifting journey of yours that has significantly impacted you in a way where you felt like you wouldn't have learned it, whether it's a lesson or it's just something to be mindful of? Like, is there anything that's happened in this whole journey of powerlifting that you felt like you wouldn't have experienced it or learned it or understood it fully if it wasn't for doing powerlifting?
Not really. The biggest thing that I get out of powerlifting is just humbleness, because there's always going to be somebody stronger than you. So, like for instance, like a lot of people will only do meets that they know they're going to win, and that's across the board. That's all sports, and I hate that shit. Like that's my pet peeve. Like if you know what you're going to win, what's the point in doing it? Whereas a lot of the meets I sign up for are going to be big meets, and I have yet to get like I've yet to win the best lifter at a meet, but I know if I did like a small local meet, I would win it. But at that point, it's like, well, it doesn't really mean anything. So the biggest thing I get out of it is just being humble, because even the people I used to train with over at Goggins are like 10 times stronger than I am. So just being able to find people that are stronger than you and also have the same mentality. So, for instance, when I started with Goggins, we would train in his basement. Like he ripped his stairs out of the house, and it's literally all just weightlifting equipment down there. And then he opened a gym. But when it was in the basement, it was the best, because it was literally just like, I think like the 4 or 5 of us all just training down there. The music was loud, just fucking around, saying stupid shit, hanging out as dudes, and then just lifting heavy shit. And that was it. Like nothing else to the world. I've had people call me while I'm there. I'll ignore their phone calls. I don't remember if Percival mentioned his ex or not. I know she called me one time and I bitched her out for calling me, because like obviously I'll text them and be like, hey, I'm here, I'm at the gym, don't call me when I'm at the gym. If it's important, I'll answer. And she said it was. So I called her back and it was some bullshit, and I lost my shit on her. And
Yeah.
I even texted him after. I was like, hey man, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. Like, you know the rules, and she just did this and she's blocked now. So like, just know when she comes at you telling you I bitched her out, it definitely happened. I don't feel bad about it. I'll apologize to you because we don't have a problem, but no, like I'll do it again.
Yeah, no, I've heard stories of the infamous X that is no longer in play, but
Yeah.
I can only imagine how that conversation must have went. But I could totally understand that. You know, your time is your time, and especially when it's something that needs some your focus, and it's like really a stress reliever or whatever it is. But it's one of those things that you truly want to make sure that you have your full undivided attention and focus, especially if it's something that's helping you maintain your peace and your state of mind and everything like that. It's not something that you like to get interrupted, and especially if it's something that you don't have that much time to properly dedicate to and to do, you know. But you mentioned being with other people that were into it, and you just basically just shutting yourself off from the world and focusing on nothing but that. Could you give a little bit of how you balanced your passion for powerlifting with other aspects of your life, such as relationships or careers? Like, I know when it comes to anything that anyone cares about, I feel like it's always extremely hard to find other like-minded people that share that same moral compass in the sense of like why you care about something. Like you can always find someone who finds something interesting like you do, but it's always hard to find someone who's as passionate as something that you care about. You know, so is there anything that you can share with us that's helped you balance your passion for this as well as like maintaining a good relationship with anyone, whether it's friends, families, or even in a relationship? Because like I'm pretty sure none of this is easy, whether it's going to the gym all the time, the things you have to eat, balancing your regular job with this, going to competitions and stuff. So how do you manage to balance all that and still maintain like a regular life?
I mean, it's not easy. The biggest thing is compromise. I mean, like I said, I've been doing this since like 2017. When I started, it was pretty rough. Well, a lot of it was rough between me and my wife because I just gotten into it. I was probably like too into it because I was obsessed with it at the point. Like I was training 5 days a week. I was doing all this stuff my coach was telling me to. I wasn't spending as much time with her. And then on top of that, obviously, like I had just gotten out, so I had yet to even cope with all the shit we did in Afghan, like go through all that. So I'm getting over all that on top of this too. So like it was pretty rough for a while like that. And obviously, like over time, it started getting better. But like that's also the when people in my unit, my friends started like offering themselves like one a year. So it was pretty rough. But over time, it started getting better. I started getting to the point like, all right, well, I need to stop taking this as seriously. I need to start spreading the time out, and time management's a big part of it. And then basically, like, I need to, if this is going to work, I need to figure out what's more important. So I dropped it to like, I train 3 days a week now, and that's it. And then we would have a compromise at the time when I was trained by my coach. I would drive an hour to Atlanta, which means 3 hours because with traffic. It's like I'd leave work at 5, I get there at like 7:30. Is another big reason why when she called, I bitched her out. Like how long it takes me to get there, I have a certain amount of time, I'm gonna drive that back. But also having other people that do it. So I'm lucky to almost have like a mentor in my training partner because I hang out with a lot of older people, and I think he's like mid to late 40s. Having somebody like that that's been around for a while, started his own career, everything too, basically get to be able to talk with him and just you can bullshit and you also just talk about everything. Have somebody kind of show you the ropes and be like, well, you could do this and you can do this. This is where I messed up, so don't do the same things I did. So the big thing is just finding like-minded people and be able to talk to them and kind of separate through all of it, and compromising is a lot.
I like that. Would you also say that that's one of the rewarding aspects of all this as well?
Yeah, for to me, the friendships is kind of what made it. So like I made some really good friends in powerlifting that I still talk to. Like I said, this meet, even if it's not a good meet, I'm excited for it because we're all going to go get drunk afterwards. And these are like dudes I haven't hung out with probably since I started. We haven't been done the same meet, all of us together. One of the dudes, I don't even think he's competed since before COVID, and he's coming back. So we're all kind of like friends. We all talk together. We're all in the Atlanta area, so it'll be cool just to be able to do a meet with all of us together again. Is going to be the big part of it.
And how do you define success in the powerlifting? Like, is it solely about breaking records, or is there something more to it for you?
Um, Honestly, I don't think I'll ever be successful at it because I'm one of those people like if I hit this PR, all right, I'm gonna be happy about it for a few hours, but then now I have a new one. So for instance, like my last meet, I squatted 700, which I've been chasing for years. I finally hit it, and I'm like, all right, well now I want to hit like 750 to 800. Like that's not good enough. So my idea of success is always going to go up. I don't think you'll ever be truly successful at it. It's all just personal, like what you decide on it. Obviously, you're gonna have the greats that are breaking records. They're all over the place, like John Hack right now, who's just a fucking monster, competing at like 198 and 220 and lifting numbers that are just insane.
And what is like with all these competitions you're going through and all the experiences and all the people that you've been meeting and everything like that? You mentioned how a lot of them are older, so I'm pretty sure they've had stories to tell you, or they have tips to give you, or like things that have been beneficial to you and more than just powerlifting itself. What would you say is a misconception that people have often about powerlifting and this whole world and lifestyle?
I feel like they think they're all meatheads. Some of the best lifters I've ever met are like the biggest nerds. Like there's one dude, I can't even, I think he's like Mr. Last Impression on Instagram. I can't remember. I haven't seen him in years, but the dude was just a beast. And he was going to college and he was in like his 4th year for his doctorate. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was stuff you actually have to be smart to do. So like everyone just thinks like, oh, well, this guy lifts because he's stupid. Like, the old saying, like you're either strong or stupid. Like, well, you can't have both. Like, you can't be strong and smart. Where in reality, like a lot of these dudes are like it's just their hobby stuff they love to do. And a lot of the coolest people I've ever met like this. Also, obviously, you go in the gym, you see like a big dude, you think he's gonna be a douchebag. Yeah, some of them are, but honestly, most of them are bodybuilders. But as far as like strongman and powerlifting, most of them are like big teddy bears. Like some of the nicest people you ever meet, they're glad to help you with it, whatever. Just talk to them because I promise you, most of them are going to be huge nerds, especially nowadays.
I hear you. And so like what would you say is like the proper definition, or is there a proper definition to what it is you do? Is it just powerlifting? Is it bodybuilding? Like what is it that you would say you fall into when it comes to, like, if someone was to ask you exactly what is your profession or what do you do, what would you respond?
So I do powerlifting. So it's basically mine is just the 3 lifts. If I still did strongman at the time, I would probably say both. But obviously, bodybuilding is just you work out and you go on stage and look pretty and just flex in underwear. But where the other two, like you actually have to kind of toughen up and you're going to go through some shit to do it. Because watching those two, like they're going through some rough shit to get into this meet. I've seen them during the meet too. It's rough.
And so real quick, I want to give everybody a shout out once again for everyone who's tuned in, kicking it with us in the chat, on Twitch, on X, also on YouTube, for the questions and everything that you guys were answering, asking. Thank you, Savvy. Thank you, Tab. Thank you, Bro Fit. Thank you, Brett, for chilling with us on YouTube. Everyone, please make sure you go and show Colton some love. Go follow him on Instagram. Check out his content that he has for powerlifting. Make sure that you're subscribed and following Clocking Out Podcast. If there's any information regarding anything that you've heard Colton share today and you would like to get in contact with him and ask him more questions or just learn more about him and what he has going on, all of his social media contact information is going to be in the description of this podcast episode. So wherever you're watching or listening, you can go to the description, you can go and check it out and get the information that you're looking for. Real quick, before we get out of here though, we've been streaming for almost about an hour. Colton, for those who don't know, Colton is just a beast, basically. If you haven't gotten the gist of this episode, Colton is a beast. He's a monster. And if I don't know, I myself thought that it was literally just, you eat a lot of food, you go and you lift stuff, and that's really what it is. And it comes out to be a lot more complicated than that. And there's a lot more things to learn or to keep track of to do it properly. Because you don't want to go out there. You don't want to eat the wrong thing. You don't want to mess up your health. You don't want to go out there and lift things that you're not supposed to and do it improperly, or think you're ready to go for a competition and you really have no clue what you're doing. You want to be respectful to the people who take this seriously. So it's always good to do your research, do your proper 40 or 50 plus hours of research on whatever it is that you're trying to learn before you step in it. And firsthand experience is always good, but it's always good. It's also always good to speak with the people who have that history of experience of actually doing it themselves. So you can kind of skip over those little mistakes and avoid those things that might deter you from trying this more and more. So before we get out of here, though, Colton, I want to ask you one more thing. Is there anything that you have currently going on right now, any competitions or anything that you're preparing for? Is there any goal of a certain weight that you're trying to reach yourself or that you're trying to pass when it comes to what you've been lifting and everything? I see your videos, you're attaching chains and all this crazy nonsense now, so it's worrying me. And every video I see that bar bending more and more every time you lift it up. It's just fucking crazy. But is there anything that you're aiming for right now, whether it's a personal goal or you're preparing for a contest, a competition, or anything that's going on that you want to share with everyone so we can keep an eye out for it?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm about 3 weeks out from a meet that Iron Built Games here in Gainesville that's going across the country. Honestly, where I place at, I don't really care. Right now, my goal is I want to get as close to a 1,900 pound total as I can. So to do that, I would have to squat 740, deadlift 740, and I'd have to bench about 440. So that's my goal right now. Whether I hit it or not, we're going to see. I'm going to get as close to it as I can. My long-term goal is hit a 2,000 pound total. I'm not there yet, but 1,900 is a pretty close one that I want. So I think I can get it with at least a year. I would like to get it at this one, but I think I should hit it fairly soon. But yeah, that's where I'm at now. It would be nice if my back would stop tearing when I squat, but we'll just kind of deal with that for now.
That doesn't even sound normal. Say it, bro. Like it's me, and I've like when you mentioned that, I've had an experience that sounds similar to that, and I know I felt like something tear once, and yes, it felt good. And then I understand what you're saying. Like later on, it was just one of those things. Like, what in the hell is going on, and what did I do? But all these things, man, I don't understand. Like you really just must love this for some reason, because as much as you say you don't know, man, I don't know anyone that would put themselves through all this just for the hell of it. So
Yeah,
um,
I mean, as far as that part, it's more just because the weight on the bar, it kind of literally just tears my skin. So there's always like marks there from the bar ripping it apart. Now, obviously, when you hit the shower, like you feel it, but you kind of get used to it after a while. It's done that for years.
I don't know. It's not something I like to get used to, bro. It's so crazy. But yo, I'm really impressed. I've been trying to I dedicated this whole week to speaking with people who are into personal fitness and eating properly and nutrition and everything like that. I figured it'd be a good theme to have for this week. You inspired it. Tomorrow we're gonna have Ryan Turner from V Dads come on, and we're gonna be talking nutrition with him. And then we also have Brofit. Brofit is another person who's always live streaming in the morning. He's doing his morning coffee. He does his workouts for an hour or so every morning, and he gets everybody involved. And then we got Josh from the Jay Curd Show, who also, for everyone who's chilling in the chat right now, he's going to be going live later on tonight, if I'm not mistaken, on Whatnot and on Twitch, I believe, at 8:30. So make sure you go and stop by and show him some love and support. But Josh is also going to be joining us this week on Thursday, and we're going to be talking about fitness with him. But I think it's something that everyone should be having involved in their life. Getting out, getting moving. Doesn't necessarily mean you need to go out there and start flipping houses and tossing cars. But I do believe that everyone should be exercising in some way, shape, or form. If they can every day, at least once a week or something. I think health is something a lot of people tend to neglect until it's too late. And it's just good. I've for some reason I've noticed more and more, whether it's on my feed from following you or just the conversations I've been having with people, but I've been seeing a lot more stuff of gym activity and working out and just going out and being active. And so I want to help try to push that along and get people motivated to go into the gym, or just checking their weight, or even looking into it and starting that process. But I want to thank you so much, Colton, for stopping by. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to me and share your story and share some information with me and the rest of my supporters and viewers. Everybody, please make sure you go and give Colton a follow, show him some love and support, check him out, share his content, like, comment, ask your questions. I'm sure that he'll be more than happy to share whatever he has, to help you out on your journey, whether it's powerlifting or getting involved in going to the gym. And Colton, is there anything you would like to share? I mean, anything that you would like to say before we get out of here to our listeners and our supporters?
I got a few more people I may hook you up with to talk to. Like I mentioned to, I don't remember if I mentioned to you or if I mentioned to Percival. A good person you talk to would probably be the founder of the Heavy Breathing Foundation. They're out of California. He works with a lot of like people that used to be addicted to things and stuff like that. So what they try to do is get them under a bar and lift instead. I've been talking to him the past few years. Really cool dude. His story's great. I got in contact through him with another guy. His name's Jose around here, a bigger guy than me, like to the point he went to a Kubla Khan concert and they pulled him on stage and he went viral. Like just talk about the biggest person they've ever seen in their life. But yeah, he's a great dude. Probably get you in contact with him to talk about all his stuff because, like I said, it's a nonprofit organization just helping people out, getting them in the gym, and just off of everything else.
I love that. Definitely let me know. We'll definitely DM each other, and I'd love that information. If you could do the intro, I would love to talk to them and see if they're interested to come on here and share their story. I would love to hear it. When it comes to anything like that, man, like I mentioned before, all this stuff, like I honestly just do it because I'm trying to learn from people's firsthand experiences, trying to get better at all this stuff. And at the same time, I figured if I can have these conversations with people to learn some information from them, why not share with anybody else? You never know, whether it's the
Yeah, I get that.
story, the journey, so that's what I'm really trying to do, honestly. Get out of my comfort zone of just keeping things to myself or not being able to put myself out there and have these conversations and everything. So I figured like all of this in some way, shape, or form in a combination not only helps me but helps other people. So whatever I can do to help spread that message or spread the story or bring more attention to whatever it is people have going on that's like that, please feel free to send them my way or let me know how I can help, and I'll be more than happy to get involved, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I'll get you in contact with them. My biggest thing I would probably say, just don't take things so seriously. Like in life, like there's no point. Like I think I got that mindset probably in Afghan. Probably one of the funny stories. I'll leave you with this. I had to go poo. So I'm like, all right, well, nothing's happening. I'm gonna get out of the truck. I'm gonna go get my little bag. I'm gonna put it down on the ground. I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick. And remember, we're just in the middle of the desert. So I'm doing my business, and all of a sudden I start hearing like crack, 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 and like we're taking contact, getting shot at, and I'm just like, dude, are you serious right now? Like, I'm just trying to shit. And so like here I am like squatting over my bag, like firing back, basically just like, well, I guess like if I die here, like I guess it counts as dying on the shitter. I don't really know, man. But yeah, after that, I was just like, you know what? Like life's a joke, man. Like just don't take stuff so seriously. Don't let it ruin your day. Everybody's gonna have a bad day on everything. Same thing, powerlifting and lifting. You're gonna have shit days. You're gonna have days where you don't hit the numbers that you should, but it's just the way it goes. Like some days are gonna be bad, some will be better. Just don't be stupid and try to force things when they shouldn't, and then don't bring it home and bring it out on other people and ruin their days when like they didn't even do anything.
100%. I agree with you, man. Sometimes you just got to go with the flow. You have to understand what you're in control of and understand that there's things that are out of your control. And at the end of the day, man, we're all trying our best. We're all here on one planet, one earth. We're living one life, and we're all going through it, and we're all working through the motions of just how to make it to the end of whatever this thing is called life. And it's true. It's best if we just don't take things too seriously, man. Sometimes we're a little bit too hard on ourselves, and it makes us devalue the moments that we should be cherishing and remembering and just taking the time to fully appreciate. So I agree with you. Sometimes we just got to do that. We got to stop taking things too seriously and just let go and just, enjoy the ride, man. So everyone, thank you so much once again for tuning in, for stopping by, for kicking it with us. I love you guys. Thank you, Percival. Here we go again because we was talking about him. Thank you, Colton, so much for stopping by. Shout out to Percival. Thank
Maybe
you for
one day I'll be as pretty as him.
but Colton, thank you so much, man. Again, if there's anything I could do for any projects or any events or anything that you got going on, if you ever want to come back on here again and share a story or anything that you're working on, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to have you on here. I truly appreciate you giving your time and sharing with us. And yeah, man, anything, just hit me up. I'm always around. You can just shoot me a DM and we can good to go. We can set something up.
Yeah, and as always, if you'll go check out our podcast, The Dweller Archives, it's a little mental and a little out there and unhinged, but it's pretty fun. So,
yes, everyone, if you want to go and check out their podcast as well, he does a podcast with Percival. I'm going to have that in the description of this podcast also as well, so you can go and check it out. Go give them a follow, subscribe, like, listen, and leave some comments and some feedback so we can start getting some interactions. Get involved. Don't be scared to hit them up. So everyone, thank you so much. I love you guys. Stay safe. Have a great night. Peace.